Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you are, how you might be watching slash listening. Thank you for making this part of your day. I'm Justin,
I'm Alexander.
and we are the hockey podcast you're about to hear. And Alexander, do you suppose they're called hummingbirds because they don't know the lyrics?
No, it's because of the sound they make.
Yeah, it probably makes sense. I didn't think that one would fly.
You kidding me?
Yes. On that note, where would you like to start? And we can't start over, so yeah.
Well then, wiping that open out of our minds, let's move forward into the past. The
Yes.
past being the Stanley Cup playoffs, which are not the NHL playoffs. They are the Stanley Cup playoffs. Let us all remember what we are playing for here. And by we, I mean everybody else, because I'm not playing.
Mm-hmm.
We are currently sitting on the eve of Game 1 of the Stanley Cup
Ooh.
Finals. So, we have 3 rounds that have been played. We
Mm-hmm.
have 14 teams that have been eliminated.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get to talk about all that and then throw you a little preview of what we think is going to happen in the final. And then we hit a few off-season happenings that have already happened.
Yes,
And from
indeed.
there, call it a night.
Yeah, I like
So,
it.
Justin, we did make some predictions before we
We
started this
sure did.
particular playoff round. In fairness, we should go back and review those because it's not fair to predict things and then be like, we'll review it if we get it right.
All right.
So,
I would agree.
in the heart of that,
Yep.
let's go back, and I have not looked at the winners and losers and the number of games it took to make that happen.
Yep, and I have it pulled up
But
right now.
I am curious as to how much I can remember off the top of my head. So probably just start me in a conference, and I will try to get the winners and the number of games as close as I can.
Alrighty, well, I'm just going to make it easy on me. Start at the top of my list here in the West, which coincidentally happens to be the Flames versus the Stars.
The Flames won that series in 7 games.
That would be
In
correct.
7 games, Game 7 going to overtime on a
Also,
Sunday.
also correct, yes. I do remember that. My heart almost stopped a few times. No big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And
Which one
looking
was Edmonton and the Kings? Edmonton won that one in 7 games.
also correct. And we both had Calgary going. I had LA advancing. You had Edmonton advancing.
Huh?
So we also have Avalanche versus the Predators.
That one was a 4 game sweep.
Correct.
You could call it a 3 game sweep. They just had to play the fourth game because whatever.
Just a formality at that point.
Well, like the 4-1 is sometimes considered a gentleman's sweep.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think the 4 was the ungentleman's sweep because like guys, we could have called this after really just 2 games or 3 games. It would have been fine.
Yeah. Let's say quote Daryl Sutter's waste of eight days to play Colorado.
It absolutely was.
Okay. And the last series in the West was the Wild versus the Blues.
Wild versus the Blues. This is the one. This is the one. I'm trying to remember if it went to a game 7 or not. I don't believe it did, but oh, I know the first round had a lot of game 7s in it
Mm-hmm.
because we
Mm-hmm.
had 5 in one weekend, but this was not one of them. So this was St. Louis in 6.
That is correct.
Okay.
So you were perfect 4 for 4 the West with Colorado, St. Louis, Calgary, and Edmonton. I went 2 for 4 because I picked Minnesota and LA, and they didn't come through for me. Okay, so let's bounce over to the East. We have Panthers against the Capitals.
Panthers against the Capitals. This Panthers are going to win.
Yep.
What I'm trying to remember is if Washington forced a game 6 or not.
Mm.
Ah, I want to say they did.
They did.
Okay.
So Panthers in 6 or the Capitals. Next one is the Maple Leafs versus the Lightning.
That was the Lightning in 7 games.
That is correct. Next one we have. Oh, that's weird. The Rangers and Penguins on here twice. That's unhelpful. Rangers over the Penguins.
That was another 7-game series in which the Rangers won.
That is correct. And then had to be
Carolina,
Boston.
Also 7 games where the home team won every game in the series.
Which is very odd, but correct, yes. Okay, so that one, we each went 3 for 4. You missed on Toronto, and I missed on Boston, advancing. So any thoughts about round 1 before we go to round 2?
The first round is honestly like sometimes the best of playoff hockey because you have so many games, you have so many unknowns going on because you haven't established like who's playing good playoff hockey and who's not, and all those kind of storylines just kind of this continuous snowball of activity and discussion and happening and storyline that is really just fantastic. Like if you've watched hockey all season, you get to the first round, and it's like, all right, so there's fewer games per night than normal, but the games that are on are just like very captivating. So I'm trying to remember what really stood out from the first round.
Honestly, I think just the 5-game sevens, because that was a fantastic
That
weekend.
really was the culmination of everything. You had 3 on a Saturday, 2 on a Sunday. It was like, wow.
Oh yes.
I also always forget like how the NHL tries to now space out the games,
Right.
which they don't do during the regular season.
I know, which is so annoying during the regular season. Yay, we're gonna have 7 games start at the same time, and 2 games start at like an hour later. What? Why?
I thought it was gonna be like 3 or 4 screens going to be able to watch all the games. Like you never need more than 2, really.
Which was super nice.
They had it set up really well.
Which is weird for us to say that.
It also meant a lot of really late nights or early mornings that were probably foolish on my part. But
it's only one time a year, right?
Yeah, it's only 6 months out of the year.
Right.
Yeah. Then the first round had some unique storylines, like the home team winning every game in that Boston Carolina series. It had goaltenders going down like crazy in the Pittsburgh Rangers series. Like,
because Pittsburgh got down to 3rd string for a little bit, didn't they?
Yes, yeah, they were down to Louis Domingue and his spicy pork.
I forgot about that.
And we had a number of controversial calls or no calls across the games. You had Toronto losing in the first round again, who they lost to. Spoiler alert! You got to find out they lost to a really, 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 really good team. Probably the best team they've ever lost to in the playoffs, quite frankly, given what's happened.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, you have Connor McDavid going absolutely monkey crazy in his series with Los Angeles and just becoming this machine that just puts up 3 points a game in the playoffs, playing at a ridiculous pace.
All right, we're letting in 4. I guess I'll have to score 5. So no big.
You had a goaltending performance by Jake Ottinger that came so close to stealing a series.
Oh my word!
For Dallas against Calgary, that was very impressive.
I'd say I would have been very disappointed had Calgary lost to Dallas, but I would not have been upset because that was unreal. Like, I couldn't be mad because Calgary literally did everything they could to try and win that game in that series, and he was unreal. If they had just gone out and gone and pooped the bed, then I would have been upset, but they didn't do that. They were trying their hardest.
Oh, yeah, I think that's kind of the general synopsis from the first round that comes to mind for me.
Yeah, nice. All right, so that first round, you went 7 for 8 on the winners. I went 5 for 8 on the winners. So
Okay.
Not bad for me. Really nice for you. So bumping over to the second round, ripping the Band-Aid, starting the West again. We have Flames against Oilers.
Flames against Oilers. That one Started out with one crazy game one
Yep.
that we thought was going to set the pace of the series, and then 4 games after that, the Oilers had taken it 5, and it was all over but the crying.
Yep.
Again, watching McDavid play out of his mind and Draisaitl play through what was clearly
Oh, yeah.
a very painful injury. Later found out to be confirmed a high ankle sprain,
Oof.
in addition to whatever else.
Yeah.
But it was painful to watch, but also captivating to watch somebody fight through extreme discomfort to continue to play hockey better than people who are completely healthy.
Yeah, just unreal. Unreal. So the next series of the West, Avalanche versus the Blues.
That was the Avalanche taking care of that one. That one was a 6-game series
That's correct.
in which the Avalanche cleaned up business fairly tidily. They had one game that they had a lead, gave up a lead in the third period. McKinnon does a crazy McDavid play, basically.
Oh, yeah.
Makes tons of speed, tons of moves, beautiful goal. And then Colorado gives up that lead again. Twice in the third period, couldn't get to a 1-goal lead, and then lost in overtime to St. Louis.
So
it was
that
like
game 5?
That was game 5, yes.
Yeah. Brutal. Yeah, after that I was like, oh, I don't know if Colorado's going to be able to pull it off after that. That's pretty devastating.
It was like, that's the way you let a team back into a series, because at that point it was 3-1. And it's like, okay, they've got a handle on this. And it was like, well, hang on.
Yeah.
Because they just took care of business in St. Louis, and it was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So, but Colorado came out on top. So, we both had Colorado. We both had Calgary. So, we went 1 for 2. I mean, you know.
Well, it happens.
Not great, not bad, but, you know, when there's only 2 choices possible. So, bouncing over to the East, we have the Panthers versus the Lightning.
Panthers versus the Lightning was, again, a 3-game sweep by the Lightning over the Panthers. The Panthers in the entire series of 4 games scored 3 goals.
Oh, that's rough.
It was the series was not anything close to a competitive series at all.
Yeah, that was kind of a letdown.
Completely outclassed by their big brother.
Oh yeah, that was kind of a letdown.
It makes Florida wonder, why did we pay so many first-round picks for the last couple of years to develop a team that still gets swept in the second round of the playoffs? Kind of makes you wonder what they're going to do going forward, because now they're in this weird middle state to where they're probably going to be a good team, but they're not going to be able to put together the pieces for a championship team. And they'll always just be a playoff team that's like, well, they're going to win 1-2 rounds this year? Maybe, but they're not a cup contender.
Right.
Going forward, in my mind.
Yep. Nope. I agree there. Because last year that matchup was pretty entertaining, right? Like went 6 or 7 last year. Florida and Tampa Bay.
It went 6 games last year.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's kind of what I was expecting this year, and then it's like, oh, they're gone. Okay.
And one of the keys from that series is they did that without Braden Point, who is their number one center, because he was injured in Game 7 against Toronto.
Oof.
And still has yet to return.
You're right. Rumors for tomorrow, maybe, possibly. We'll see.
You got to make the other teams think that something's going to happen.
Yeah, always. Okay.
Yeah, and then now you're going to ask me about Carolina and New York.
Sure am.
Of course. This is the one that I did not pay attention to this series. Like, we had Battle of Alberta, Battle of Florida. We had Colorado whooping up on somebody, which was always kind of fun to watch. And then there was this other series that took place on the same night as Battle of Alberta, to where it was like, okay, this is the night where I'm not watching hockey until later in the evening. Like, I know it's going to be a 10:30 start or whatnot. Or 9, I think they're mostly 9:30 starts, actually. They were really nice because they were on the Central Time Zone.
Oh, yeah. Sounds right.
So I really didn't pay attention to the New York-Carolina series as maybe I ought. Not ought. As I did all the other series.
Right.
I know the Rangers win. I am racking my brain trying to remember if it was 5 or 6 games, because it certainly was not 7, because I would know which series went to 7 games. I think this one has to be a 6-gamer, because did they win it in New York? Was this 5 games? Can't imagine. Did this go all the way to 7? Oh man. Okay, so hang on. I'm thinking this through because I know what happens in the next round when the Lightning face um a Ranger team that just came off of. They just come off of a game 7. Did that series actually go to 7? I think it did. I'm gonna say they went to 7.
They did.
Okay, let's go.
That was the series that every home team won except for Game 7.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Yep. So going to that one, it's like, oh well, I guess we can just pencil the Hurricanes and make it the next round. And the Rangers like, nah, don't think so. We have other plans.
Okay. Yes, because basically up to that point, Carolina had not lost at home all playoffs long and had not won on the road playoffs long.
Yep.
Okay. Very good. And what did we have predicted at that point?
So for that point, I had Tampa Bay against the Rangers for round 3. You had Carolina against Florida for round 3.
Well, I was dead wrong and you were dead right.
So yeah, just kind of weird. You never know. You think you know, and then they play the games, and then you're like, huh.
So what you're saying is from the early on prediction, I predicted more teams right, but now we get to this round, and I have one team left that I predicted right of the 4 that are in the final 4.
Correct. Yep.
And you have 3 of 4.
Yep. You went 1 for 4, and I went 3 for 4 in that round.
Kind of fell off the boat there, didn't I?
Yeah, a little bit.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting, huh?
I cannot see into the future as far as you can, my friend.
Well, let's say I can't see close, but apparently I can see far. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe together we should bet.
There you go.
You take the first couple rounds, I'll take the last couple rounds, and yeah, we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this brings us up to the conference final. Or anything else from round 2 then before we move on to the conference finals?
Round 2, I don't think had anything overwhelmingly captivated other than what we just talked about as far as some of the highs. Yeah.
Okay, nope, I'm there with you. So conference finals, Avalanche against the Oilers.
But whooping 4 straight games.
Oh, yeah.
There were a couple moments where we thought maybe they could pull off a game, and they still couldn't. I think Colorado was very much we let St. Louis almost back into the series. We are learning from that, growing as a team, getting better as a team, which you need to do if you're going to go on a cup run. You actually get better as the playoffs go on. You don't start out at 100% and come down to 70% and show up for the final.
Right.
You need to start at, a different point and increase your ability. As you grow and gel as a team in a locker room, right?
Yeah. Finishing is very, very important as it turns out, so who knew?
Uh-huh. Also, Cale Makar continues to be...
Oh, my word.
Unreal.
Unreal.
We ask the question usually every year. If this guy gets the finals but his team loses, is he still the Conn Smythe winner? And I feel like Cale Makar is making the case this year.
I would agree with that. Very strong case.
So, yeah, we will see how that plays out, but maybe we'll talk about that in our Stanley Cup final preview.
Hey,
but let's just Cale Makar is doing things that only Cale Makar apparently can do, which is very entertaining to watch if you are neutral enough. If you have a strong interest, you're either loving it or you're absolutely like, can nobody stop the things that this guy is doing? And how come he can go off sides when nobody else is allowed to? These are the kind of things that you ask yourself on a nightly basis.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was that guy.
Yep, that sure was that guy. So into the East, we have the Rangers against the Lightning.
This was what we were going to call a 6-game sweep.
That is
by the Lightning.
Correct.
Because after having swept Florida, Tampa Bay rests for 8 days, while the Rangers play every other day, play the game 7, take a day off, and come in and play the Lightning, and that game is not even close. It's like a team that hadn't played for a year playing their first game against a team playing every day.
Yeah.
It was night and day difference. They had no shot in that game for Tampa Bay to beat the Rangers. So it's almost like that one doesn't even count. Except it does count.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Second game, Tampa Bay starts to get their legs back of like, okay, we played a couple days ago. We're playing again tonight. Remember the pace, the action, the feel of playoff level hockey.
Mm-hmm.
And they put out a better effort, but still not a winning effort. And so suddenly it's 2-0 Rangers, and like they got the champs kind of back against the ropes here. Like this is not going to take much. And then at that point, Tampa Bay's like, no, we were just kind of still stretching. Like this was our
Yeah.
warm up,
Oh, we're
and now
going
it's actually
now? Oh, now? Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yep.
This is like, well, we've just kind of been in second gear. You actually won like race now.
Yeah.
Okay, here's fifth,
Yeah.
and off they go. 4 straight games.
Mm-hmm.
At some points, just absolutely dominate, and at other points, not necessarily lucky, but that
Steven
mindset
Stamkos goal.
and continuation of we believe we're going to win, we know we are better than you mentality.
Right.
That you know how you kind of make your own luck, right?
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to stuff like this, like Tampa Bay's been doing that really well for the last 3 years,
Yeah.
and it continued in this situation. They never panicked. They never looked like, okay, we got to try and like cheat up a little more defensively, or oh, hang on, like they sold out continuously throughout the series.
Oh, yes.
One, we'll talk about this probably in the Stanley Cup preview of what makes Tampa Bay great in my mind, because it's a more of a point than just a recap point. So that's how we got to where we are of having Tampa Bay versus Colorado in
Mm-hmm.
the Stanley Cup final starting tomorrow night.
Yep. And say to your point too, the Rangers scored 6 goals in the first game, 3 goals in the second, 2 in the third, and then 1 and 1 and 1. So Tampa Bay definitely is like, okay, we're going now. Yep. Cracked knuckles. Yep. All right. Sweet. See you guys later.
It's kind of like a movie where like they got like the pool shark and like they let you win the first game, like, well, let's play for money, and then
Oh.
they just start cleaning up the board and you're like, I'm not gonna touch
Yeah.
anything the rest of this game. I'm like, no, you're not.
Yay.
That is basically what it looked like.
I'm so glad we bet
Well,
$1,000 a ball now. Oh. Yep.
honestly, part of it was like, if I was really with it, you would have waited until the Rangers were up 2-0,
Oh yeah.
and then you would have put a ton of money on the Lightning to win the series, but then also a ton of money on the Lightning to win the Stanley Cup, because at that point their
Mm-hmm.
odds were ridiculously high for as good of a team as they were, to where now it's like, so their odds are nowhere near as good of a payout. You could probably have, if you place that bet, now you could probably actually go sell that bet to somebody that's like, oh yeah, I don't want the 2-1 odds, I want the 5-1 odds that you had it at, and I'll pay you the difference. So,
Yeah.
anyhow, I don't know that I actually have anybody in the Stanley Cup final from my predictions, because I'm pretty sure I took Calgary against, was it Florida?
No, that was Carolina.
Oh, against Carolina.
Yeah.
Same.
So, new prediction for you. Who do you think's gonna win?
We're already into the final prediction thing, huh?
Yeah, seemed like the next best place to go.
I honestly am still not sure, and I think part of that
Which
has
is
to do
fair.
with
Yeah.
I don't know if Darcy Kemper's starting game 1.
I
They
heard
have
that
not.
he is, but I don't know if that's official or not. That might just be speculation from everybody.
Then I also don't know if Braden Point is playing game 1.
Yeah.
We don't know what the health is like of some of the other guys that are banged up and out. Like, you don't really know that until it's like, okay, it's game time. These are the guys that are in. These are the guys that are out. So there's part of it's going to wait till the very last minute to like edit my pick in like picks leagues that I'm in.
Right. Oh yeah, I
I'm
need
like,
to redo that and make sure everything's good.
I. So, Tara, I'm gonna let you give your prediction, because I'm probably gonna give a much longer-winded prediction than.
Oh yeah. Because I'm gonna go with Tampa Bay because I picked them to do a three-peat. So, meh. But no, I'm with you. This one, I hope this one goes to 6, if not 7 games, because this should be a very, very exciting, very entertaining series. And so, I think it'd be awesome for Tampa to do something that hasn't been done since the '80s, especially in a salary cap era. And I don't really. I mean, I have mixed feelings on Colorado right now because coming into it, it's like I don't want them to win. They roasted the Flames, a few years ago in the playoffs. But then they took out the Oilers, so I was like, well,
Mm-hmm.
okay, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd really like to see Tampa Bay win. I think that'd be really cool. I mean, even the history now with them. But
Yeah, just making it to 3 in a row
yeah.
is, yeah.
Although I was gonna say, signing Corey Perry seems like that'd be the kiss of death because he's lost the last 2 years. So if he loses this year again, he's got to think, is it me? It's got to be me. So
We'll see. And then at that point, Pat Maroon is going to beat the crap out of him because it's like, hey, I had a good thing going for 3 years. I was going for 4, and now you come along with your loser streak and ruin my winner streak.
right, yeah. So, well, like I said, it's easy for me. I made the prediction at the beginning of the year, so I'm just gonna stick with it and see what happens.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Alrighty, now you take it.
And this might just be me working this out in my head and trying to figure out what I actually think.
Fair. Yep.
So styles make good fights, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you want a contrast. You want two teams that are more similar than they are different. And I feel like we have a pretty good contrast of a Colorado team that moves very, 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 very fast across the ice and plays with a lot of confidence and a lot of aggression when it comes to the offensive side. Their defensemen cheat up more. They do some things that I think as a young team and maybe as an inexperienced playoff head coach, they have the talent to take risks, and it pays off for them quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
You just think of Kale McCarr behind the goaltender in the offensive zone. It's like, what is your defenseman doing back there? That's not where he plays.
No.
Know your role. They do a lot of, they try and get the puck up the ice quick. They are after you. And that has made them very fun to watch. That's made them very successful against teams that are just not ready for that type of impact that they bring.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's almost a mental component to what they're doing. Of you are not ready for us to come at you this fast, this frequently for the entire game, and you will eventually break down mentally. Or we're going to get a couple quick ones on you, and then we're just going to really bring the avalanche on top of you after that.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
There's back when the Michigan State Spartans were really good, Tom Izzo, his whole philosophy was every time they miss a shot and we get the rebound, we are going to run it back to their end as quickly as we can. Like, basically think of every defensive rebound as a turnover. We rush the other way. And you wore teams out, and teams that weren't necessarily wore out, were mentally wore out, just like, oh, we missed a shot, get back. Oh, we missed a shot, get back, because they're coming right away. And they'd get like 25 fast break points a game. It was ridiculous.
Ooh.
So that mentality has worked before in sport. So that's kind of the Colorado style, right? Lots of skill, lots of speed,
Mm-hmm.
lots of very much driven to this point by that mentality. On the other side, you have the moniker of defense wins championships. Well, you know why it wins championships? Because somebody gave up fewer points or goals or runs than the other team did, and therefore they won, and therefore they won the championship. So offense wins championships too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
guys, no, I understand the saying is more so the more you can do to prevent the other team from scoring goals, the better shot you give yourself to win than
Yep.
trying to outscore what the other team does.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
If you saw defense from them at all, you let me know. Because, yeah, defense.
We're just gonna outscore our problems. It's fine.
I'd say offense wins 2 rounds, defense wins championships.
Yep. I would agree with that. Yep.
So, then taking a look at Tampa Bay, and here's what has impressed me really on their whole run. They are very comfortable playing a tight game. They're comfortable playing a 1-goal game, either up a goal, down a goal, tied. There does not seem to be any panic, stress, breakdown of their team or their goaltending when the pressure is at its highest and the game is at its tightest.
Mm-hmm.
which you would get in a Stanley Cup final, which they have two previous experiences of, which
Right.
everybody in Colorado really doesn't. Their coach does not. Their big players do not. They have a
Mm-hmm.
couple guys here or there that have cups, but in the most part, they don't. Their goaltending duo at this point does not, because if Kemper struggles, you'll be like, well, Francouz kind of came in when Kemper was injured and played really well, so maybe we go back to him. And I hate it, absolutely hate it, when you get to this point in the season and you still don't know who your goaltender is. The credit
Yes.
I will give Edmonton is like they threw Mike Smith back out there every single time. There was never
Mm-hmm.
a
Mm-hmm.
maybe we try Koskinen now that we're down 3-0. It's like, no, this is the horse you rode to get here. This is a horse you either parade on
Yep.
or dies with you in battle.
Yep.
Pick one and go for it. And I'm afraid Colorado's going to go to this kind of back and forth dipsy doodle, Leonard Fleury, Husso, Bennington kind of mess that just
Right.
drives me absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, Tampa Bay's in watching Tampa Bay play, the fact they've been together as most of the core,
Mm-hmm.
and I know, like, okay, they lost their whole third line. Their defensive core of Hedman, McDonough, Sergachev, Ruta, and crud was it? Cernak.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys, I think, have been there for all of their cup runs. If you can have 5 of your 6 defensemen together for cup runs year after year, now after year, no wonder these guys play good defense,
So yeah, that's
because
huge.
there's nobody else in the league that's even close to having that type of core together that many years in a row, with or without cups.
Say not to mention paired up with the same goalie, so everybody knows what everybody else is gonna do.
And
Makes
you
that a
can
whole lot
see it.
easier.
You can see it in the way they play.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what was off after they were off for 8 days and had to play the Rangers. Guys were getting out of position because were not in their rhythm, and they stopped trusting each other.
Yep.
So you saw 2 guys going for one guy because, like, well, you let this guy around you last time, so I think I kind of need to be over here, and then I leave my man, yada yada yada.
Yeah, it's kind of
And
crumbles.
when Tampa Bay is playing their best game, they trust each other as a defensive unit, not just this line is out there, so this one's good. It's like all 18 skaters are trusting each other. They're all playing, they're all buying into the same system. And John Cooper has said, to win championships, you need everybody pulling the rope in the same direction.
Right.
And you can see that in Tampa Bay. It doesn't matter whether it's Corey Perry line out there, whether it's the Cirelli line out there, whether Stamkos is out there bouncing stuff in off his shin pads. It's everybody's pushing and pulling the same direction that needs to be done, the same mindset. They don't make bad turnovers. They don't make bad passes,
No.
defensive zone, offensive zone, neutral zone. I don't know if I've ever seen them turn over the puck in the neutral zone. Like, not
Right.
once.
Well, it's just
Like
like a
that,
dump in or something type deal. We're like, yeah, we're gonna line
right?
change. Here you
But
go. Here you go.
they
You can
pretty
have
much
it.
always get it out. They get the puck out defensively. They get
Mm-hmm.
it deep offensively, consistently, game after game after game. That gives you high percentages of not having bad breaks going against you. And if something does break down, you have the best goaltender in the world
Oh
standing there.
yeah.
You're like, okay, I guess I'll do work now. So, the impressiveness of Tampa Bay's team defense, because it really is team defense, because
Oh
in a
yeah.
tight game, okay, so Hedman's out there with Cernak. Okay, well, now they got to come off because they've been out there for a minute and a half. Well, on comes McDonough and Ruda or whatnot. And it's like, okay, well, that's another really quality line. And then they're out there for a minute, and Hedman and Cernak are ready to come back on.
Yeah.
It's like, um,
So I'm pretty sure there
or
was like at least one or two power plays where the Rangers didn't even get a shot on goal just because Tampa Bay clamped down and clogged everything
you
up.
will you will also see that um, the way that the defensemen and even the forwards get down and block shots,
Yeah.
get their sticks into lanes, like sell out to cut off a pass.
I mean, even starting with our
It's
captain in Stamkos, like,
yes, yes. Um, through injuries, through shots, that's like the fearlessness of
mm-hmm.
the entire team to play a certain way. I don't really see that losing. Uh,
Yeah.
somebody made the point that both teams are going to win games in this series. right? This is not set up for a sweep of any type.
We hope, yeah. But no, I would be very, very, very surprised if somebody got swept.
If it was a sweep, which way do you think it would go?
Uh,
Would it be
well,
Colorado shows up, just overpowers whatever's left of Tampa Bay at this point, or is it Tampa Bay just turns the screws and says we're not losing another game this playoffs?
I think it'd be Tampa because Colorado's been sitting for how many days
That
now? Almost a week.
that is the critical juncture of all this. Is I believe that Tampa Bay is probably going to steal the first game in Colorado,
Yeah, I think it does help that
and
it is home for Colorado, but still.
it is. But that first game, if you have a team that's has more experience and has the less rust,
Uh huh.
I I see it's very, very difficult that that team is going to come into the Colorado and be like, no, we're going to get dominated by Colorado. Now, Colorado has had some amazing game ones of their
Oh yeah.
series. Like they come out flying like a buzzsaw, and it's crazy. I don't think Tampa Bay gets rattled by that. Tampa Bay could get
Mm.
down 2 or 3 goals in the first period and still win that game.
Right. Yeah.
Honestly. The other the other slight aspect to all this that I'm wondering is if there is that whole thin air, mile high
Oh
fatigue
yeah.
factor.
Yeah.
There was a long enough break between this series that I think they've been able to get there and acclimate for a couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
And they had like a really hard practice this morning, I think, to get their conditioning
Right. Yeah. I
to
always
a point
forget
where
about
it's like,
that.
but
Hmm.
by God, I don't see Tampa Bay losing this series, but I also don't see Colorado playing poorly.
Right.
But that's what you get when you get two teams that just deserve to be here. And
Yeah.
that's really kind of the best storyline of this whole playoffs is the two teams that really deserve to be in the cup final are
Mm-hmm.
here.
Right.
You know, this isn't Montreal. This isn't Dallas. This is the best team in the Western Conference could throw at you, and they made it through the playoffs, and they're standing here waiting for you.
Right. Which is crazy because Tampa Bay was technically a number three seed.
Technically, but I really don't believe that Tampa Bay has a
No.
seed anymore. It's like, as long as you're
No.
in, fine.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think it's time for the prediction, which has got to be log, logically. I just have to say that it it should be Tampa Bay.
Should be, or will be.
Probably gonna say it will be. I don't know if all my picks that I make will line up with that, but it should be.
All right. Well, I got you down for Tampa Bay. If you change your mind between now and the end of the podcast, I can update it. But that probably won't be much longer. So speak loudly. But yeah, no, I'm with you. I will not be surprised if Colorado wins it. I will not be surprised if Tampa Bay wins it.
Well, and if Colorado wins it, they absolutely deserve it
Uh
because
huh.
they they they've dominated so far up to this point.
Oh yeah.
Honestly, they really, really have. Everybody they've played has not been a match for what Colorado's doing this year.
No.
But they have not played anybody even the caliber of Tampa. Like, think of this. What do you think Tampa Bay would have done against Nashville, St. Louis,
Oh yeah.
or Edmonton?
Yeah.
Honestly, I
Eh,
think I think Colorado would have probably also gone to 7 games with Toronto. I
right.
think Colorado probably also would have taken most of the first 4 games off of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Rangers actually would have been a really interesting series, just from
Oh
the
yeah.
goaltending
Yeah.
standpoint of what they had to go through.
Right.
So if you say if each team had to take the other's path, would they both be here?
Yeah.
I think they would.
I think so. Yeah. I think so.
Okay. Put me down for Tampa Bay. I think this is one of the like when Stamkos came back in that first year
Oh yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
one shift, a minute and 6, and scored a goal. It was just like there's the lift. You're getting Braden Point back probably for the series, at least probably for game 2 forward.
Right.
And I know like they wouldn't bring him back unless he would be capable of playing up to a certain level. It's not like, okay, if he can walk again, let's get him on the ice and let him limp around for 8 minutes.
He's at
When
45%. Let's go.
when you're when your top 6 players, your top 6 forwards, can come back and play, it's because they're still top 6 caliber.
Right.
When your bottom 6 forwards come back and play, it's because you need an experienced, warm body in that position. Because as you go through the playoffs, your top end players play more and more and more and more minutes, and you see a greater stretching of things. Except maybe for Tampa Bay, because they do throw out third line, fourth line routinely. What you saw in like Edmonton was, okay, we need McDavid to play 30 minutes a night,
Which is a
and
question
that's
I was
not.
going to ask you: is what are the Oilers going to do when McDavid gets old and can't play 25, 30 minutes a game anymore?
Well, he'll be playing for a different team at that point, so it won't really matter.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
That'd be my guess.
Alrighty. So, anything else on the final prediction preview playoffs as a whole?
I'm gonna go with no.
All right. Any exciting off-season news you want to touch on before we wrap up?
We have had a lot of coach openings this offseason for one reason or another.
Mm-hmm.
Some surprising,
Mm-hmm.
some not so surprising.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the most surprising one was Bruce Cassidy being let go by Boston, who is apparently probably going to go into a 1-year rebuild to try and get Connor Bedard or some other high draft pick this year, because basically I think Bergeron retires, Marchand misses the first couple months of the season,
Oh,
McAvoy
right. Yep.
misses the first 2 or 3 months of the season. They're going to be playing some third line scrub as their top line center at some
Yeah.
point here, and so I don't think the coach was down for that.
Yep.
And they probably have a disagreement, and they said, okay, then we're going to find a coach that's okay with a rebuild, and you're out the door. Who signed today in Las Vegas? Because Las Vegas, you know, somebody sneezed and they said, hey, fire the coach again.
Shit, no joke. And then somebody else sees,
So,
hey, let's hire this coach.
yeah. So Cassidy goes from Boston to Las Vegas. Not
Yeah.
a bad gig.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll pay him millions of dollars, and some of those will be for coaching, and some of those will be for not coaching by the time it's all said and done, because that's what they do.
Yeah, probably.
Then it looks like John Tortorella is going to go to Philadelphia. That's breaking like as we're recording. Is that they've offered him the job and they just have some final negotiation stuff to do, but
I
it's going to happen.
so hope that happens just from a pure entertainment standpoint. Oh,
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
oh yeah.
Very, very interesting.
Oh yeah.
I'm glad because it took Tortorella off the board. I did not want Detroit to hire him
Mm-hmm.
because Detroit is also looking for a coach. Barry Trotz is the biggest fish that's still out there. I'm assuming the reason these guys are hiring him is because Barry Trotz has said, well, I'm not coming to Vegas. I'm not coming to Philadelphia.
Yep. Yep. I would agree.
I
Yep.
think Detroit is waiting for Tampa Bay to be done to be able to interview, or maybe they have interviewed and are just waiting to announce the hiring of one of the assistants in Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
People that Eiserman probably would have originally hired when he was there
Right.
and have been part of 2 or 3 Stanley Cups,
Sure,
which
sure,
is the
sure.
kind of pedigree you want to bring into a young team and be like, hey, see these rings on my fingers? I got these.
Yeah.
Let's see
Listen
what we
up. This is how we do it. Okay. Yep. Yep.
got. So, yeah, that's most of the off-season stuff, I think. Um, if you are a celebrity, don't get drunk and walk around the street with somebody that's not your girlfriend. Um, and then, yeah, I don't know that I have a ton after that. What do you got?
So I don't think much right now either on what you just touched on. I know the Flames have some re-signings that they need to do, but that'll probably be for another one down the road. So, yeah. Yeah, nothing else. I don't think of any. Other than, like I say, just hope for a really good series and competitive, close games, exciting games. No controversial calls, please. But we're due at least
That
one,
that
I'm sure.
that is my one fear for this series, as we are going to have such an even,
Uh huh.
tight, well-played series between two teams.
Yep.
That is going to come down to a blown call or a cheap call
Uh huh.
or something along those lines, whether it's a whether it's a goal that should have been allowed that they inadvertently blew the whistle, or whether it's a goal that
Right.
went in that there
Off,
was goal for interference.
somebody's skate or something, whatever.
Yeah, yeah, like trying to define what is a kick, what is a hand pass. Like, if somebody hand passes it, how far up the wrist is considered no longer hand, kind of thing. It's like
Yeah.
if you buck with your is an elbow considered a hand pass? Like if you just kind of bump with your elbow to your teammate, is that?
Yeah,
It, it, there's going to be at least one stupid call that's going to light everybody on fire, and it just is the way it is.
Hopefully it happens in game 1 and not later in the series.
Yeah. So.
Alrighty.
Yep.
You still set on Tampa Bay, or have you changed mind to Colorado?
I'm still going with Tampa Bay right now.
Confidence sounds so high. But no, like I said, I don't blame you. This is probably the closest Cup final we've had in a couple of years, I would think. So. Alrighty. Well, if you don't.
This has been years in the making of giving us a really good Stanley Cup final.
Yes. Hope it doesn't disappoint. Alrighty. Well, anything else then, or should we wrap it up?
I say wrap it up.
Alrighty. Well, I am Justin.
I'm Alexander.
And we are the Hockey Podcast you're about to hear, we just did. So thanks for listening. We'll talk at you later.
Bye.